son of a father who was in the Air Force, he has traveled and lived in countries around the world. He was there at the very beginning to witness the birth of and participate in the tech and investment deal flow phenomenon that rose from the Silicon Valley during its heyday. And at present, he teaches entrepreneurs how to find the capital they need to reach their goals and dreams. Please join me in welcoming Jon Stoddard to the conversation. 3, 2, 1. Jon, I think we're recording. How's it going?
That's great. Thanks for calling. Thanks for this opportunity.
All right. I'm very excited to present Jon Stoddard, CEO of MillionDollarPitchDeck.com and then Pitch Deck Secrets, which is a book that Jon has authored. And so I'd like to find out a little bit more about you, Jon, if I could. And could you sort of give us an idea of how you were as a kid, where you were born and raised, and let us hear more about you as a young man.
Yeah, sure. Oh gosh, I live in the same town I was born in, but my dad was in the Air Force, so we moved around a lot. I mean, we moved around every 2 to 3 years, and there's a couple things you learn about that. Is you don't acquire a lot of stuff like furniture and stuff, and you learn to make friends and say goodbye, and without hurting people. So, look, I've lived in many states in U.S. I've lived in Germany and near Ramstein. I've lived in Turkey, Incirlik, a Muslim country. We've lived all over the place. I've traveled all over the place. And then my dad retired and moved back down to Tucson, Arizona, and Wilcox, a really, really small town, a farming community. I'm talking a town with one stoplight. So the prospects of going outside of that, it was just following what my dad did. He was in the Air Force, so I went in the Air Force for 4 years, and I wasn't really the military type. So I started taking some college and loved electronics, and then went to the University Northern Arizona and graduated 4 years with a degree in engineering, electronics. So then I started working for a lot of contractors, big contractors, like Link Flight Simulations. They build simulators for the Air Force, Autodesk, Intuit. So I spent 25 years in technology and software, small companies, big companies. Yeah.
Wow, that's a very fascinating history that you have there. So you've traveled all over the world, seen different cultures, and like you say, you have to learn to adapt and make friends and then say goodbye, right? So
Yeah.
it couldn't have been easy all the time. And then you moved into electronics. And so what time are we talking about where you start to get into electronics? Is it as the computer begins to emerge?
Yeah, when I graduated high school, they take some kind of test, what you're good at. I can't remember what the name of it was, but I really scored high in electronics and mathematics. And mathematics came a little bit easier to me. So the job I took in the Air Force was working on flight simulators. These are computers that offered simulations for pilots. So if a pilot jumped into a cockpit, and we could put visually the scenarios, terrains, territories, and flight runs for him and simulate the entire mission. I mean, some of these pilots would go in for an hour and come out sweating because it was so realistic.
And what year are we talking about now?
Oh, we're talking 1980s. Long time ago. Yeah, long time ago.
We're talking like the 286.
Oh, no, I mean, way before that. We're talking GP4 core memory of it was like this big of a memory slide. You pick it up, and it's probably 20 pounds, and you put it in. This right here is like 1,000 times, had so much more memory than that did just in that one computer, man. We're talking probably 4 rooms of computers to run this, which takes 1 computer to do the same thing today.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. And so you came from that environment, from the Army. You said you weren't really a Air Force type of guy, but you came from that. You were fascinated by the electronics. And so did you move into, because you were talking the 80s, we're talking this revolution, this tsunami of
oh, it was awesome. It was, people, I left the Air Force and, drove 200 miles to Northern Arizona University and started taking electronics and engineering. And they just started getting these little Macintoshes. And it was just awesome. And you just spend hours on there going, oh, that's so cool. You would sit down with a PC and you have to do DOS, MS-DOS, and all these operations to just like, God, man, this is a lot of work. You move over to a little tiny Macintosh and it's got these click and windows and stuff, and you're just fascinated by it. Yeah.
And so that brings us to the 80s. And then do you start to bring your knowledge of electronics and computers and this brave new world, you begin to get into a place where you're monetizing it? Are you in a deal?
Well, yeah, not really. I was still kind of a worker bee, let's say, and worked for a large corporation and doing all the grunt work of, working on the electronics, like, not interfacing with anybody throughout the day, just doing whether it was coding, a little bit of that, or manual stuff like you got to replace a card because this goes down. I kind of moved into, I just thought, I was looking at it, goes, I'm not really this guy, the engineer guy, to just sit down and work on electronics 8, 10, 12 hours a day. I was more I liked interfacing with people, talking with people, and seeing, that kind of progress. So I moved to sales for Autodesk after my working for, as an electronic engineer, moved over into sales and just started doing sales on the phone and software products.
Wow. So
I like that much better because that made a lot more money because it was all based on a merit system, man. Just working your butt off. The more calls you made, the better you got at selling, the more you made.
So you were smiling and dialing.
Smiling and dialing. That's right.
All right. Yes, I've got a lot of respect for this way of, because when you are, because people are like, I don't want to cold call and whatever, but you've got just nanoseconds where your voice and your demeanor has to capture somebody, and you have to be very persistent, and you have to be a little bit thick-skinned because you're going to get hung up on, and it's a area that many people don't enjoy. But you said you thrived in that environment.
Well, I got to tell you, remember when I told you about my dad was in the Air Force and we had to make friends quick and say goodbye quick? You develop a thick skin early on. And when somebody says no to you, you want to try to sell them software, you're not offended by it. It's like, okay, no means not right now or never. I'm okay. I'll go to the next guy.
And in what you're doing now with your pitch deck secrets and $1 million pitch deck, we're talking, that's a form of sales as well, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, man. As an entrepreneur, you're going to go through a lot of no's. It's going to take a long time to find the right message that you have and to appeal and make sure the market cares and to find an investor. You could be talking to nearly 1,000 people before you get to the right person. I mean, and at each stage of an entrepreneur's journey is, look, I got an idea. It's on paper. I have an MVP. Then you're going to start talking to friends and family. That you have to give the pitch to those guys. If everybody tells you no there, then keep moving on and try to develop your story until it becomes more concrete and more helpful and the market cares. After you get to that point, you're going to go to a bigger investor like a super angel or something.
What would you tell somebody There are people who are just deadly afraid of public speaking, and there's people who are they think about picking up that phone to make that cold call, and there's some people who is like the worst thing in the world is that presentation, is that sales call, is that thing. What would you tell them, a person who's very shy, and what would you tell them to get out of being afraid and to just go for it?
Yeah. So, with investors, you got one shot. It's one at bat, one silver bullet. So you have to be good at this. I can recommend a number of sources, a number of ways to start practicing. For the sole purpose of getting better, start pitching to your friends and family. If nobody believes you, you're not given the pitch, work on these skills. But being a great manager also means, reinforcing areas that you're not good at. If you're not good at it, bring on a partner to help you that is good at that. I mean, Steve Wozniak had Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was good at presenting an image of people like, hey, I didn't know I need that, but I need it now. Now, Steve Wozniak didn't have that ability at all, but he was building the stuff in the background.
Absolutely, that's a great point. So you're a salesperson now for Autodesk. You're smiling and dialing. You're making some money, and so bring us up past that to where you become entrepreneur and you're raising money, or where do we get after Autodesk?
Yeah, so I worked on a small company. I decided to go work on a smaller company. I didn't. At some point you like I'm a really big a small cog in a big company and doing sales. That's fine. But if you're living in Silicon Valley, the bug hits you. Because, God, how are these people making millions and billions of dollars with these ideas? Because they put themselves in the flow of ideas. So I went to a small company in Louisiana. And not really the epicenter of it, but it was kind of a technology I was interested in. They were doing 3D animation products, the sector I was kind of interested in. And I'll tell you, here's the impetus when we first started. The CEO was a fan of Tony Robbins stuff, and so I listened to Tony Robbins, and I put him on CD, and he said, man, you got to dream big. You got to dream big and take advantage of it. So I went to the CEO. He goes, let's start a company. I mean, your company's fine. It's doing like $2.5 million, but let's build something bigger. And we put our heads together and we just started saying, okay, let's go through this idea. No. We put a ton of ideas up there. We put let's do this. Let's do that. That doesn't have a big market. Nobody cares. I can't find a way to make money. That's not going to work. And the honest truth is, I was having a phone with this kid, this 19-year-old kid, and he said, I've been thinking about creating a marketplace for 3D models and assets. I go, boom. I said, hey man, can you pause 1 second? Walk down the office, got the CEO. I want you to listen to this. I think this is the idea. It was TurboSquid. It was selling 3D models, buyer and seller. I go, look, man, we could be the eBay, which was big at the time and growing really rapidly, for animation 3D models. I go, nobody else is doing it. We have the advantage. We have the market. We know who the customers are. And we know all the assets to put on the website and start selling. Dude, we could do this faster than anybody else and better than anybody else. And that's the idea we jumped on.
So you were kind of the Steve Jobs in that partnership.
Yeah, I was the kind of Steve Jobs. I would take credit for that. It was I didn't come up with the exact idea, but I got the inspiration from a kid that had the idea. I mean, we loved the kid. We kept him on for a long time, and he just I don't want to be part of the company, and so he just left. But we kept the company going. I tell you, it was not easy first going, because that was before the internet was really saying we're going to list venture capitalists. We said, okay, we got to build an eBay type engine to have buyers and sellers, and then have commerce then. it wasn't simple as having somebody from India just build it and ready to go. We had to figure out how to do it, and it looks like it was going to cost like about $5 million, and we didn't know where to do that.
Wow. Okay. And so through this experience, is this where you started to get into the framework of fundraising from this experience?
Yeah, I mean, it was a process of learning. We just said, we're going to need some money to build this product out. And it took a long time to learn how to do it. There's so much mystifying of going and asking an investor for money and then getting investment. But it is a sales and marketing process. It's a little different strategy, and then the message you're doing and what the benefit they're going to get from it. And it may take longer, and you got to be prepared for it. Like, getting prepared for climb Mount Everest, it takes 5 to 7 years, and you got to get hit other peaks before you hit Mount Everest. It's just a requirement. But learning how to raise money for that, we did about $5 million raised from Intel, Advantage Capital, and Kodak tagged along on that. But we put $5 million, built the product. It's out there, and I think it's doing, last check, maybe $30 million in business. It did not turn out, I have to say, it did not turn out to be the market size business that we thought it would.
And this is TurboSquid.
TurboSquid.com, yeah.
And I'm familiar with SketchUp. That was a product of Google.
Oh my God, that was an Autodesk. Yeah, Autodesk bought that. Yeah. Yeah.
And so yes, that was a very exciting time to have this 3D capability, this in an affordable, user-friendly way. It was a revolution. So you were part of that revolution.
I was part of that revolution. Yeah.
So bring us up to how you take all of these experiences now, and so now you're in sort of a teaching mode. You want to tell people, you want to teach people what you know, because you kind of went through all the school of hard knocks, right? And so now you want to teach people what you know with your pitch deck secrets and your website, milliondollarpitchdeck.com. So tell us how you get there, and what your mindset is to now begin to teach what you know.
Yeah, so there was a couple other stops there. I did business development for Intuit for about 5 years, and then that was even a larger company, run great. I mean, the stock did well, great CEOs, and learned some process there inside business development, but it was just too big of a company for me. And then I left the company, and I started looking for companies to purchase and run myself. I put my money where my mouth is. So I bought this company, and it was an e-commerce company that was, not making a lot of money, but it had a lot of assets, a lot of the business, e-commerce, and the relationship with the hearing aid manufacturers. It was an e-commerce hearing aid company. So I took that company, I owned that for 5 years, and it was profitable every year, and built it up and sold it to a private investor. And then I said, look, I don't want to get into product shipping anymore, just manufacturer. I didn't like the e-commerce part of it, but I love e-commerce, but I didn't like the e-commerce part of what I learned in the hearing aid business. Was hearing aids are like selling cars. Somebody's not going to buy a hearing aid every year. It's going to be every 3 to 5 years. And there's no upsells, cross-sells, or downsells on it. So I had to sell a new customer every time. Not what I wanted to do. That was another big lesson. So I moved over into the information business, the business of selling information, because you can get a customer involved, and then you can upsell, cross-sell, downsell through the life of them. And part of that was helping people teach what I've learned over the years about raising money.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And so we're going to put your contact information if anybody's on a money hunt, if anybody's looking to approach private placement or venture capital for their business. We're going to put all the links there in the description below. And so, is there anything else you'd like to express to our audience about the business that you're in as you disseminate this knowledge, through LinkedIn and through your other channels? Is there anything else you'd like to talk to say?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the time, Liam, and this is a great opportunity. I like doing this for entrepreneurs. There is a shortcut to raising money. There's a process, because what investors are looking for. All you have to do is bring them a good idea, but there's a way to bring your idea to them that makes sense, where you're the fastest, you're the best, you're the first. But you got to show that, you got to tell a story, and you got to say, look, this is why you should care. And this is how, if you give me money, I'm going to turn your dollar into $5. You tell a story that does that, and you'll take a shortcut. You'll get there faster. Absolutely. So if you want to learn more about me, you can go to my website at milliondollarpitchdeck.com or get my free book at pitchdecksecrets.com.
Fantastic. Okay, last two things. There's been a lot of negative press recently with the presidential election coming up about private equity and capitalism in general. And so I was I'm talking to people and just getting their gut feelings on why the high hysteria. It seems like it's at a very fever pitch, this hysteria, and just wondering if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, look, there is no other system on this planet that has lifted people out of poverty than capitalism has. I mean, there's a great book by an Indian author about, I don't remember the name of it, but it's microloans. It has lifted a good portion of India out of poverty because of capitalism. Capitalism about money, putting good ideas into good projects. I'm okay with it. I mean, I think it's a lot of hysteria. But if you get let's say, Elizabeth Warren, who says, I'm going to start taxing capital gains, unrealized capital gains, that's crazy. That's crazy, man.
Absolutely. I agree 1,000%. Great.
That's nuts. It's not going to be very long before Jeff Bezos says, you taxed me $7 billion this year, $10 billion next year. Yeah, that's not going to work.
It's not going to work, and I agree with you 1,000%. Capitalism, more people have been brought out of poverty in the last 10 years through capitalism than in the history of humanity. So I don't know what else.
Yeah, it's just, look, if you read Adam Smith, I mean, there's an invisible hand that works together. We're all kind of trying to build our own little business and supply for our family. I want to supply for my wife, my kids, my family, and then I'm happy to work together to bring you products and services that help your family. It's the invisible hand from Adam Smith. That's capitalism. It's great for everyone.
Absolutely. I agree. Okay. At the end of the interview, I always ask our guests if they would be interested in answering the 10 questions of Barnard Bobo. He is a very famous French talk show host, kind of like a Johnny Carson type of character, and he would always ask his guests the same 10 questions, and it was always awesome to hear how different guests would answer the same thing. So are you interested, John?
I'm interested. I've never heard the question, but I'll give it a shot.
Okay. John, question number 1. What is your favorite word?
What's my favorite word? Great freaking question. I gotta knock it off, Jack. I mean, I don't know. I've got kids right now that just do stuff like stop.
Cool. Why not?
Yeah.
What is your least favorite word?
Negativity. Yeah.
Negativity. I hear you. Me too. Number 3, what turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Yeah, that's the why that makes you cry. Finding the source of inspiration for creativity. Being in a environment where, look, I'm doing good and I'm serving others.
Absolutely. I hear you. Okay. Question number 4. What turns you off?
I got to go back to the negativity. I think like negativity turns me off. It's like there's nothing faster than ending a phone call or somebody that's just bitching all the time, criticizing, bitching, etc.
I hear you. Well, that brings us to question number 5. John, what is your favorite curse word?
Probably fuck. What the fuck?
I hear you.
Yeah.
What sound, number 6, what sound or noise do you love?
Sound. There's an AC/DC song that I love. Yeah. If a Duran Duran comes on, I'm lifting 20 pounds. AC/DC song comes on, I'm lifting 250.
I hear you. Okay. What sound or noise do you hate?
Oh, my kids screaming and fighting.
Yes.
Oh,
I agree.
my kids are. I got twins. They're 12 years old. I thought they'd be great friends and develop their own language and just be able to entertain themselves. But it's like Israel and Palestine, like opposite.
I hear you. What profession, other than your own, would you like to attempt?
Well, I thought it was, I like to play basketball. I was doing 6'4", but man, you got to really be fast, strong, and jump high. And I was a white man can't jump.
So basketball, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
That was other than being a business guy, man. I tell you a story. Validation, like signals happens in the universe. And when I first moved to Silicon Valley, I went to a seminar, a C plus 7.0 database conference, and it was packed. And then I walked up and he goes, "Hey, any more seats?" And the guy said, "No, there's no more seats." "Oh, wait a minute, one opened up." And he led me down all the way to the front, the second row. And like, who's sitting right in front of me? Bill Gates.
Wow.
Oh, boom, man. It was like he was ready to give a presentation. He's just shaking his leg, thinking about the presentation. And I naively reached up in front, tapped him on the shoulder and go, "Hi, Bill, can I have an autograph?" And he goes, he's just like, "Oh yeah, sure." And he signed it and gave me a piece of paper. I can't find the piece of paper.
Wow,
Yeah.
It'll come someday. Someday you'll find it.
I put it somewhere and I can't find it. I can't believe it.
Okay, well, that brings us up to question number 9. What profession would you not like to do?
What profession would not like to do? It's like something like a union job where you're just stuck into you're just a tiny little cog. You have no say, and you just come in and do the same thing every day. That's probably a mailman. It never stops. It's
never
the same
stops.
thing every day, and you have no say. There's no reason to bring your brain to work.
I hear you. Yes. You have to give it to those people that are raising a family, right? They're doing that job, but I hear you 100%. It's difficult. It's really difficult. Okay, and number 10, John. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you finally arrive at the pearly gates?
Hey, why didn't you take my advice?
I say that again?
Why didn't you take my advice? I gave you a ton of signals, knucklehead.
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, it's like
God is just busting you down. Dude, man, come on. That played it right in front of you.
Dude, I put Julia Roberts right in front of you. You could have dated her. You could have married her, but you didn't.
I put Bill Gates right next to you. All you did was
put
ask for
Bill
an
Gates.
autograph.
I told you, I said, I put it as thought inside your head. So just walk up to him and say, I got a great idea.
That's great.
But you asked him for his autograph. You got so excited, like, okay, well, it's like a little kid. Yeah.
And so what year was that when you saw Bill Gates?
Oh, well, it's got to be when C++ database came out. So we're talking maybe 81, 82.
Wow. It's a great story. All right, Jon. Well, it was definitely a pleasure having this chat with you.
Thanks, Liam. I really appreciate the opportunity. I love doing these, by the way.
Yeah, it's great to listen and, because I really enjoy your doing what Guy Kawasaki says, and you see Dan Pena doing this. People get kind of like, well, I don't want to, you just keep posting, baby. You just keep posting, and you're very rhythmic in your posts, and you're just getting the word out. That's the way you got to do it, people.
Look, you and I are, not young chirps anymore. We're not writing 5 books before we're 20. We are a world of experience behind us, and we can't really help people that are 60 and billionaires, but we can help everybody behind us avoid the dragons, avoid the landmines. Like, dude, here's a shortcut. Take this. Don't do what I do. Just move this way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Jon. Thank you so much. And maybe we can do this again sometime.
It sounds great, Liam. I appreciate it. Let's connect on LinkedIn, and I appreciate this.
Okay. Take care, my brother.
All right, take care.
Talk to you.
Cheers. Bye.